Hi, thank you for looking at my workplace risk assessment on Etsy. I'm just going to do a quick talk through today and explain how it works and what you get with your purchase. This is the listing that you'll see on Etsy currently, and there's three sheets that you get with the risk assessment, each of which is detailed in the image here, and we'll go through those now. Now, the risk assessment is designed to work with Microsoft Excel. I'm doing this on a Mac currently, but it will work just as well on a Windows computer. What you get with the risk assessment is 3 pages. There's an introduction page. They are tabbed at the bottom, so you can go from introduction. There's a risk matrix page, and there is a risk assessment page itself. So on the introduction, it just does a little bit of intro into what the risk assessment is and why you're doing it. It tells you that a risk assessment is an examination of anything in your workplace that could cause people to suffer injury or ill health while at work. A workplace risk assessment tells you whether you're doing enough to protect your workforce, it demonstrates good business practice, and it helps you meet your legal requirements. There's a 5-step process to identifying or carrying out a risk assessment, and that starts with identifying the hazards, then eliminating the risk, evaluating the risk, recording your findings, and reviewing your findings. I've got a list here of possible health hazards. I've hidden some of these because it's good to have these. Obviously, when you purchase the risk assessment, all of these are going to be visible for you, but I don't want to be giving you any free clues essentially. So you've got health assessments here. You've got possible safety hazards on this side. You've got contributing or additional factors down here. So I've shown 3 examples of each of these. So you've got animal attack, got potential for asbestos or bacterial infections, and the list continues. From a safety hazards perspective, you've got cold or frozen, so anything that might be in a freezer or depending on the time of year. You've got compressed air and pressure and contact with power tools, and then contributing factors being drugs and alcohol abuse, environmental conditions, interactions with others or distractions. And then beneath, we've got a hierarchy of controls. So this is the 5-step process that you should really do to try and eliminate those risks that you have in the workplace. So first and foremost, eliminate the hazard. Can you just get rid of the hazard um, as a first port of call? If you can, then great. Secondly, you reduce the hazard. Third, prevent people from coming into contact with the hazard. So can you handle the situation remotely, perhaps, or use a tool? Introduce a safe system of work, or finally provide personal protective equipment, which is normally your last port of call. If you absolutely have to contact the hazard, then wear your PPE. There's a risk matrix, and this tells you how the risk assessment is going to work. So you start with your likelihood. It's very unlikely, so there's 1 in a million chance of this event happening, and it goes all the way up to very likely. So 1 in 100 chance of the hazardous event happening. Similarly, you then got your consequence. So level of 1 is insignificant and no injury, and level of 5 is catastrophic death or disablement. Now, this creates a matrix here. So if you've got a very unlikely situation, which is going to cause an insignificant injury, then that's a risk hazard level of 1. If you've got a very likely situation, which is going to cause a catastrophic injury, then this equals 25. And it's a highly hazardous situation that you want to avoid at all costs. The risk assessment will give you a score, and it will be between level 1 to 2. And you can see how these are graded with the colors in the matrix here. So no action, no further action, but ensure controls are maintained and reviewed. 3 to 6 is monitor. 8 to 12, you want to do an action to reduce that level. 15 to 16, really that takes urgent action. Take immediate action, stop activity if necessary, maintain existing controls rigorously. And if it's between 20 to 25, then you stop. Stop all activity and take immediate action because you're about to have an accident. It's going to be very bad. The hierarchy of controls is repeated. This is the same as what was on the previous page, just to remind you the ways in which you can reduce your risk matrix score. Finally, we move on to the risk assessment, and this is your blank template that you will be completing to be able to perform your risk assessment. So first and foremost, you want to put in the name of your assessor. So For this activity, we're going to type in Joe Public. We're going to put a date, excuse me, today's date. You can do a shortcut here if you want. If you press Control and colon, then that'll put today's date in for you. Tab to the next available box, approved by, let's say, Jane Public. And the department I'm going to put in here, let's call it logistics. Our location is stores, warehouse, and the task being assessed, we can just say that this is going to be unloading of deliveries. So what is the hazard? So today I'm going to put slips, trips and falls because that's a common hazard that can happen in most workplaces. So just for example, slips, trips and falls. Who might be harmed? That could be warehouse staff. Excuse me. So I've started with a minus there because I wanted to put a point. So to do that, I'm going to put in a little apostrophe there, which then removes it from trying to create a formula. So warehouse staff. It could also include delivery workers, drivers. How might people be harmed? So you could trip on object. If you press Alt when you hit enter, by the way, it goes down a line and doesn't take it onto the next box. You might slip on a wet surface, or you might trip on a trailing cable, for argument's sake. Now, existing control measures. So this is what you currently do already. So use cable covers. Okay. Signage after cleaning. And we will immediately clean spillages. Am I typing today? Okay, so this is where we do the actual risk rating. So our likelihood of any of these happening. I'm going to say, let's have a look at our matrix again. So the likelihood that someone might fall over, for every 1 in 10,000 times someone goes into that area, someone might have a trip. Okay, I think that's fair enough. So we're going to give it a number 3. And it even says so here, look, there's a note that pops up as well, just to remind you of what your likelihood is. So let's give that a 3. And we'll move across to the other one. Consequence. So again, we've got a note that pops up and it'll give you your consequence. So I can say on there, this is going to be a 3 as well, because someone might fall over, sprain an ankle, and might need a couple of days off work. So let's give that a 3. Now, as I tab across, it's going to do the calculation for you and give you a rating of 9. What we could do is some increased activities there. So let's have some anti-slip mats to be used in external doorways. And that will prevent anyone walking anything wet into the area. Maybe increase housekeeping checks. Now, our residual risk now is probably going to be even better, so I'm going to give that a 2. But we haven't actually changed how injured someone's going to be if they fall over. The consequence is going to be the same, but the likelihood is reduced. So there's still going to be a 3 in our consequence. Now, as I tab across, that's going to be a 6. And you'll notice that in our risk rating at the top, it's just popped up as monitor and level 6. That's because the risk rating for this sheet is automatically populated by any of your risk assessment ratings down here. You can add on here who's going to action or monitor this risk. So you could say it's going to be done by the general manager or stores manager, whatever. And when are they going to do it? Once a week. Okay. Now I'm just going to put some more examples in down here. I could say if I had a 3, a 2, and a 6 already, the same as my other, I could reduce that to a 1 and a 2. It's going to change that to a 2, but my overall risk rating is going to remain the same. Similarly, I could have a 4 and a 5 here, giving me a risk rating of 20. And if I've not introduced those controls yet, it's still going to be a 4 and a 5. Now, as I tab across the final box, you'll notice that the risk rating increases to 20 and it tells you you need to stop. As soon as you've introduced your control measures, this might reduce to a 1. And your risk rating, again, remains as a 1. Now that's reduced to a 5. The risk rating overall is reduced to a 6 because your maximum risk rating of your assessment overall is a 6. So after you've completed your risk assessments, you can continue adding lines onto this sheet, and there's plenty of lines available there for you. Obviously, the row at the top is always going to stay visual, so you know what to complete in the boxes. You can then save this, but when you do save it, make sure that you save it as an Excel sheet and not the template. You don't want to be overwriting the template, but it should do that automatically for you. If anyone's got any questions, please do reach out and ask, or any suggestions for an update. I'm always happy to consider updates if I think it's a good addition and will benefit others. I hope that helps understand what the risk assessment is going to do, and please let me know if you have any further questions. Bye-bye.